When the bench was built, they put a piece of 1/4-inch plywood across the top of it in several sections. I think the idea was to fill in the gaps between the boards and the top. So to get the boards removed from the top, I had to strip off that 1/4-inch plywood. I'm going to speed it up here a bit.
Not really sure what the thinking behind the 2x2 was, but somebody built it for them, not for me. They get to make it any way they want. Waste not, want not. If I'm careful, I may be able to salvage some of this material for another purpose. That remains to be seen what the purpose would be, but we'll find out. Truth revealed. The back of the bench is not a 2x10. It's a pile of various and sundry pieces. This being a piece of 3/4-inch plywood. And random width, this happens to be a split pieces of 3/4-inch what's it. So, okay, I won't have a 2x10 across the front as a brace. Not a problem. We'll just use some of this recyclable material and we'll invent a brace as we go along. Might actually have to break down and buy something. I know it goes against the code, but what the heck. Now that I have the plywood pieces taken off the top, and I started stripping away some of the unnecessary grip that's been attached to this thing over the years, I'm going to start stripping out the top pieces. As hard as it was to get the plywood off, I thought I'd find more nails in here. Maybe I'll be surprised later on. Well, another misconception exposed. It's not bolted to the wall. It was toenailed with a 10-penny spike. Not very much to hold it in place. But we'll fix that. We'll just make it strong enough to stand on its own. Because I like being able to move things away from the wall occasionally. It's not always to my best interest to have everything anchored down so that it doesn't move at all. Growing up, I was always into building things. And building things meant that you needed to have materials to build them. Now, materials cost money, and when you're 6 or 7 years old, you don't have a lot. By the time I was about 8, we moved into Coldwater, and Dad bought an old house. Following along in the tradition, it was something that needed to be recycled. But Mom and Dad spent a lot of time, made it livable. Part of the livable process was taking out a bunch of junk that wasn't supposed to be there. That left a lot of material for an inventive young 8-year-old boy to use. And when my Uncle Rex came over and cut down a big old dead elm tree that was in the backyard, it left a stump about 6 feet high. Uncle Rex's saw couldn't get all the way through the stump, so they left it. That gave me a platform, altogether about 6 feet high, and so I set about building a treehouse. In building the treehouse, I used a lot of the recycled material, which meant that I pulled a tremendous amount of nails out of things. And I learned to straighten and flatten nails, and recycle nails, and make nails on occasion. Currently, I'm not doing that a lot. Doesn't mean I won't, but I'm just not doing it right now. I found that buying nails and screws is easier and faster. Just because it's easier and faster doesn't mean it's the right thing to do, but it's the thing I'm doing right now. Much better, much easier to pry this off once I have a platform to hook my crowbar to. I get a lot better leverage. Also, it looks like the front board had a lot more interest to the guy than the middle and back ones, because the front one had much bigger nails, and many more of them than this middle one was. With only 3, it came up pretty easy. I'll give him credit. He recycled everything he could too. These nails, before I pound on them, I already had the ends flattened over where somebody drove them out once. That one will never see use again. Head just popped off. More than likely, just skin a cat. This end of this board is a good reason to cut this bench down too. It's split out to about here. Well, actually it's split clear to here. So I'll be able to trim off this broken piece and just use the good part of the bench, or use the good part for the top of the bench. I have to be careful not to split this thing too much further than what it already is. But it looks like he's holding true to his pattern and not putting a lot of nails in the backboards. So maybe this will come off without too much damage. Might have to do a little gluing on this one to get it usable. I like to try and flip the boards over so that I can use the board's better side, because you would think that, you know, the bottom side of the bench doesn't get a lot of wear. But this is recycled materials. The bottom on the front board was worse than the top. You might ask, why is he driving the nails out of that end? He's not going to use that piece of wood. Why waste time on it? Well, I don't want to get stuck. Tetanus shots are a real pain in the butt, literally. And if I take out all the nails, I'm much less likely to have a problem with getting one of those rammed into my finger or other parts of my anatomy. And yes, I could just go buy boards, but a little creative thinking. I can use these over again. Means I can spend my money on things that I like to spend it on, like screws and nails. Then I can take the belt sander and go over this poor old damaged piece of wood and make it look presentable again. It'll never be perfect. It's a workbench in a garage. And one of the innumerable management seminars that I've attended over the years, part of the continuous improvement drive, I heard the phrase, perfect is the enemy of good. And I try and follow that because it struck a chord with me. If I spend my entire life with the goal of only accepting perfect, I'm not going to get much done. Doesn't mean that you shouldn't try for the best you can be. Just don't get all wrapped up in the idea that it's got to be perfect. This one's a good example of something that can be recycled, and a lot of the damage hidden in the backside of projects. This was the top of somebody's workbench that really liked to beat the hell out of things. That or else it was this part of a barn stall and the horse chewed on it. But this backside, other than some holes in it, is still pretty good shape. I was originally intending to just toss this out, but I think I'm going to pull the nail out of it and give it a new life. That's a good stopping point.